degree, and how did you come up with Dr. Vaidya's at the initial stage?
Sure, yeah. So I think my personal background has a lot to do with what I built at Dr. Vaidya's, right? So Vaidya, my last name means Ayurvedic doctor. I come from a legacy of 150 years of Ayurveda in my family. So my grandfather, great-grandfather, and generations before were all Ayurvedic doctors. The legacy of our business was not a business, actually. My grandfather ran a clinic, which his father ran. And my great-grandfather moved from Gujarat to Bombay in 1923. In 57, my dada graduated from college. And in 71, he took over his father's practice. And so it was really a sort of clinic, right, as such. But in the 80s and 90s, it became probably India's most successful Ayurvedic clinic. So my grandfather saw 300 to 350 patients a day in the clinic, had 12,000 patients on a monthly basis, writing them via post, which was the e-commerce of that time. And my father graduated from college in the late 80s. This is when FMCG was being built in India, right? The first few brands coming up and TV advertising and all those things. But my grandfather was a man of service, right? He gave a free consultation because he didn't want income to prevent people from coming to his clinic. He cared for the medical side, and doctors and businessmen don't see eye to eye. So eventually my dad couldn't really convince him to start a business, and my dada continued his Ayurvedic clinic practice. My dad started his own business in the jewelry and watch space. But I grew up with asthma. So I suffered from juvenile bronchitis. I grew up with pumps, nebulizers, steroids, inhalers. I was not allowed to play cricket like all the other kids because there was too much dust on the cricket field. Long story short, basically 14 years of Ayurvedic treatment. Later, I was cured of asthma. And I was allowed to play cricket again. And I became the captain of my school cricket team. Not because I was the best player, but because I was the most regular. And for me, that was a turning point in my life. So I went to Brown when I was 17 and a half. And I went with this thought process that I'd learned biotechnology, biology, biochemistry, and I'll come back and repackage Ayurveda. I never ended up studying any science in college. I did economics and politics. But my experience in the US sort of shaped the way I think, right? So I thought, look, there's a natural organic products revolution happening around the world. Yoga has been repackaged with yoga mats, yoga gyms, yoga apparel, Lululemon, multi-billion-dollar industry in the US. But really, India has nothing to do with that. They took what we had, repackaged and selling it back to us. So we have to do something with Ayurveda ourselves. We have to be Indian companies taking Ayurveda to the world. So that was the thought process behind which sort of I came back to India. I did my first job out of college in 2013 was in private equity. I worked at a fund called L Capital, now called L Keratin, investing in consumer brand. Got access and exposure to the Indian consumer, changing landscape, pride of Indian brands, which was different from when I was growing up. We believed that if it was Indian, it was bad. If it was imported, it was good. That was changing. Also, I saw e-commerce evolve, right? So I got to work on e-commerce investing while I was at LCAP in my early days there. 2013, 14, 15 saw e-commerce proliferation in India. And Ayurveda was undergoing a renaissance, right? Ministry of Ayush was created, government change, Patanjali revolution was happening, and hundreds of thousands of customers like you guys on this call were interested in Ayurveda. And so my grandfather passed. I remember the promise I'd made him that I'd do something with his legacy. Yeah, and I quit my job in 2016 and I just said, let's do it. Let's try.
That's an amazing story, Arjun, to be starting with biology studies from Brown University, moving to India with a private equity, Al Keratin, and then moving forward with Ayurveda industry. So how was your experience at the private equity firm helped you out in your journey? If you can share some thoughts.
Yeah, so I think, finance jobs help you see the world, help you get exposure, help you meet a lot of people. Operationally, there was zero help. Honestly, I didn't learn anything on how to run a startup while I was working in finance, but I met 150 consumer sector entrepreneurs. I met people in apparel, lifestyle, wine and spirits, food and beverage, OTC, health and wellness, cars and bike, restaurants, and I met 150 of the top consumer entrepreneurs in this country. So I got to know what it felt like to build a brand. Our portfolio companies were Fab India, PVR, Genesis Luxury, like icons in the space as well. So I got great exposure. I also got to see e-commerce up and close, right? With my time looking at companies like Myntra, Pepperfry, Bluestone, Zivame in the early days, got to see e-commerce being built in India. And I also got to understand the finance side, the deal making side, the deal structuring side, which eventually helped me when we were to sell our business. So I think exposure-wise is really good for someone between the age of 21 to 24 to get to meet all these people, see all of these things was amazing. I think from an operational standpoint, I had to learn everything from scratch.
So how was your 0 to 1 story at Dr. Vaidya when you quit your job? How you got started, how you got your hands dirty, because you didn't learn anything from the operational perspective from your private equity firm. So how did you come up with your Dr. Vaidya's exact business model that you're going forward with this, and what was your 0 to 1 story?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, look, the premise was very clear, right? I thought Ayurvedic products had lost connect with modern consumers. That was the premise, right? And that's what we were going on to solve. So we said, hey, we want to repackage and rebrand Ayurveda to appeal to modern consumers. That's the idea behind what we're going to do at Dr. Vaidya's. How we do it, we had no idea, right? So initially I was 24 and a half years old. I was not as mature, a little bit naive. And so I said, we're going to launch only 2 products. I don't want to sell diabetes, arthritis, and asthma, which my dada used to sort of prescribe in his clinic. I'm not interested in that. So I launched a hangover product called Live It Up. And I launched a Chyawanprash capsule called HerboFit. These are the 2 products I launched. Basically, problems that modern customers face that Ayurveda could solve, and also would be gateway for modern customers to get interested in Ayurveda. As any FMCG brand in 2016, 2017, right? Online only was not an approach people thought of. D2C didn't exist. All of these things were just things you heard about from the West but had not come to India. So that time we started offline, right? So Jan, Feb 2017 basically had these 2 products, hired 22 sales reps in Bombay and hit the ground running. Had a big event at Taj Lands End, I remember, for the launch of Dr. Vaidya's. And then we started. And at the event was a big success. A lot of distributors came, and then all of them were like, okay, we'll place orders. So we got 10 lakh rupees worth of sales. And the private equity mind in me said 10 lakhs, amazing. So 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, 50 lakhs, 1 crore, 6 crores, 10 crores is going to be a huge business, right? What I didn't realize is that this is all primary sales. And so this is distributors buying. Distributors will sell to retailers. Retailers will sell to customers. Only once customers buy will I get paid. 3 months later, 22 sales reps on my payroll. I got 9 lakhs of the 10 lakhs of the product back. And I realized very quickly that there's something fundamentally wrong happening here. For someone who's a good student, who went to a good college, who had a good job out of college, this was my first real big setback in life. And I'm so glad it happened to me very early on, because I understood how important is to learn from failure. So I at that time when this happened, to me it was like the world was coming to an end. Right? Like this was crazy. How could this happen to me? All of those things. And so I came back on a Saturday evening, and some point good sense prevailed, and I said, okay, let me break it down. Why did this happen? Right? It's happened because my brand is not known. I don't have experience in offline, and there's a lot of competition in the offline space. Right? Dabur, Imami, Patanjali, Baidyanath, all of these brands around for 50, 70 years. So really, is there place for me there? Probably not. And at that time, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, so she had worked at Goldman in the UK and then worked with the early team at Nykaa. She was in the first 20 people hired at Nykaa. She saw the proliferation of Nykaa. She saw how a website could be created. And she said, look, Arjun, I think the opportunities are online and there's white space there. So just go ahead and do it. And I said, look, I'm fine. I'm running a manufacturing business. I'm making all these products, but I'm not able to do it alone. So will you join? And after a little bit of convincing, she said, cool, I'm in for the ride. But both sets of parents said, this is a disaster waiting to happen. If you guys are dating and something happens between y'all, the business will be a disaster. Y'all will be a disaster. So we waited until we got engaged. And in, I think, June 2017, she joined the business. That's when we pivoted to be online only. I think the best decision we took in the history of Dr. Vaidya's. We started with our website in November 2017, and we realized that 2 products isn't going to cut it. So we launched 29 products of that. And we were doing 1 order every 3 days on our website. And that's when we said, look, we're going to be good at one thing. We're not going to be doing everything. We're not going to be doing website, offline, marketplaces, institutional sales, B2B, export. We have all these opportunities with an FMCG or consumer products business. But no, we're not going to do everything. We're going to do just our own website. We're going to see what happens. And so for 1 year, we built a small core team, but we learned everything ourselves. Right? We learned website, UI, UX, Shopify, WooCommerce, Facebook, Google, marketing, GA, ad spend, scaling up campaigns, campaign optimization, targeting, all of these things we learned ourselves. And then after 1 year, actually, according to me, we established product market fit, right? So we went from 1 order every 3 days to 50 orders a day. And 50 orders a day today doesn't seem like a great amount, but in November 2018, that was a big deal. And that's when we sort of said, okay, let's, this is a business that makes sense. The customer acquisition cost is 30%, 35% of the average order value. Strong gross margins. This can be hyper. So 0 to 1 would be November 2017, November 2018, and what I told you now.
That's great. So how is it like shifting from a luxury office job to hitting the ground to Taj Lands and going to clubs, selling Live It Up with pamphlets, what we have seen on your Instagram and LinkedIn as well. So how is it like? How how did you come up with? And
yeah, I'll tell you, Shobha, right? In a private equity job, everybody wants to talk to you. Your business card can open any doors for you, right? Because you have a lot of money that they think you can invest. Even though as an analyst, if I wrote to anyone, they think, okay, maybe yeah, this guy has it and he can invest, right? So from that to moving to a world where nobody cared about you, I remember once a distributor, two instances I realized, wow, this is like totally a reality check, and the real world is a very different place. One, I went for a distributor meeting, and the distributor said, "But where's your boss?" And I said, "No, I'm the CEO." And he said, "But where's your boss? जो company own करता है उनको भेज दो." And I said, "No, this is real now." And the second thing is, I went to one of our suppliers who my dada used to buy herbs from, and this was in Paidhuni in Bombay. And he said, he started talking to me in Gujarati, and I am Gujarati, right? But I didn't speak very well at that time. And he said to me, "You can't speak Gujarati." So I said, "Not really well. Can we speak in Hindi?" And he said, "I'm actually not interested in speaking in Hindi. Send someone from my office who can speak in Gujarati. I'll talk to them." That's when I realized that, look, this is starting really from zero. Like, nobody cares what job I had. Nobody cares who my parents are. Nobody cares who my granddad was. This is me now having to make it, right? And it was nice to see that in early on, because I realized basically you got to start from absolutely zero. And I think that sort of getting pushed around, that facing failure very early on, was a really good experience, like amazing learning.
that's amazing. And how was it like going from a private equity job to starting a business? I mean, when the world sees it as a business or traditional one in the Ayurveda space, to when in the back of the mind you have something that you are creating a digital revolution, taking it to a new age Ayurveda sort of thing. So people don't realize in the initial days that this is what is happening, but later on they come to know that something has revolutionized the particular space. So how was your experience dealing with the business versus startup and digital age?
Sure. So look, I think this digital revolution, new age Ayurveda, largest Ayurveda brand in the country, etc., all of that. This is all now, right? Hindsight is 2020, and all's well that ends well, and we are able to establish success. But until then, this digital revolution, all that was just in my head. Nobody believed that, right? And so, going from a private equity job to starting your own business, you realize nobody answers your emails, nobody picks up your calls. Like, you got to really work hard to get people interested in what you're doing. I think that was the biggest learning for me, right? You got to start really from grounds up and start really from zero. So I think that was an interesting learning for me. The other interesting learning for me was that, like, in Dr. Vaidya, there's a rule: email bheja is not enough. Just because you sent an email and nobody replied to your email, that's not enough. You got to email, call, message, WhatsApp, Instagram DM, LinkedIn message. You got to reach out to someone everywhere until you give up, right? And so that sort of was very new for me. Like, I used to write emails and not get replies at all. Forget not for 3-5 days, never. And to me, I would think to myself, well, what's happening? These people are not replying to my emails. Like, this is crazy, right? I remember once a recruiter rejecting me for business. I said, "Can you help me recruit?" And they said, "आपका website कहाँ है?" I said, "बन रहा है." I said, "ठीक है, फिर we'll not take up your money until you have a website." And all of those things were a rude awakening for me that this is a totally new world and a totally new ball game. I think what was really sort of life changing for me was to do it yourself, right? And I put a LinkedIn post about this very recently. We, for the first 6 months of promotions for Live It Up, my wife Trisha and I went to every bar promotion ourselves. We would stand outside the bar and give out Live It Up to customers and see what they would say, hear their reactions. We would be sitting at bars while a Live It Up promo event is happening and hear when our promoter goes to give the Live It Up to someone, what the customers are saying, right? I think that was amazing to learn to do it ourselves, right? Because today, if you tell me, when COVID hit and I had to go to my warehouse and pack orders myself, had to make invoices myself, had to unload the tempo myself, there was no shame and no issue in doing it. For the first 3 months of COVID, I was in the warehouse packing 3,000-5,000 orders a day myself. So I think that was amazing learning, to be able to do it yourself, to be able to roll up your sleeves and make things happen.
Yeah, you got your hands dirty and now you have got an exit and pretty much things went well. That's quite great. I mean, and going ahead, we would like to know how you made Dr. Vaidya a brand in itself within India when few more FMCG Ayurvedic brands were already present. How could you distinguish yourself as a separate brand in a blue ocean space?
Sure. So I told you about the 0 to 1. Now I'll tell you about the 1 to 10, right? So we got to 50 orders a day. We were doing decently well, but then we said, Trisha and I just sat back and said, this business now has legs. It's taken 2 years, but we've established product market fit. Let's zoom from here, right? And that's when we said, okay, this now has to be what we dreamt it to be, India's largest Ayurveda brand online, but we have to be thought leaders in Ayurveda. So we realized, we took a conscious decision from 2018 and 2019 onwards that this is not just a performance marketing brand. This now has to be a thought leader in the space. Started a lot of very, very high quality content, live sessions, free consultations, Instagram content, talking to customers where they were, creating WhatsApp groups with daily Ayurvedic tips. We created more than 250 WhatsApp groups with 200 plus people, right? Who were reading one tip from Dr. Vaidya's on a daily basis. At 7 to 9 p.m., they'd get on their WhatsApp one tip on Ayurveda, right? I think what was critical was that if I look back today, right, Dr. Vaidya's was a great business, good amount of orders, good revenue, but iconic brand. And that's the difference. We earmarked that every month we'll spend so much on brand building. And that is no regrets brand building. Content, video creation, influencer marketing, like stuff that builds the recall of Dr. Vaidya's to be that iconic brand, right? And today, you never know until you leave, right? And when I left and we exited and we sold the business, the amount of people who came and said this brand changed the face of Ayurveda, that was really exciting. And why was it? Because we said, hey, the customers have a problem. Shubham has a problem. He doesn't relate to Ayurvedic product. We have to get him to relate to Ayurvedic products. We have to do what we can to get him to relate to Ayurvedic products. And so repackage 5,000 years of science and 150 years of my family legacy to modern consumers. And we did some iconic activities. We got some amazing TV actors. We did some amazing campaigns, but we really talked to our customers. We were the largest spender, top 10 spenders on TikTok in India, right? People say TikTok, you're marketing on TikTok. They say my customers are on TikTok. So I'm going to be on TikTok, and when TikTok shut, it was a big problem for us as a business to recalibrate those 3.5 lakh rupees a day of spends to Facebook. But we did really unique, innovative stuff to be there for the customers, to build that iconic brand. Today, if you think of Ayurveda online, you think of Dr. Vaidya's. And that was really sort of the power of what we did. And that allowed us to go from 50 orders a day to 5,000 orders a day in 2 years, to get to 1.5 million plus orders just on our own website, to become top rated brand on Amazon and Flipkart, to fulfill orders in more than 16,500 pin codes. It takes brands decades to reach 16,500 pin codes in the offline space in India. And that iconic brand, that building Dr. Vaidya as a thought leader, category leader in the space, that allowed us to really, really sort of establish leadership and scale exponentially. And yeah, we won awards, we won recognition, we won funding, all of that. But the real power was the customer in Anantnag, Trichy, Imphal, Muzaffarnagar. They now had access to high quality Ayurvedic care and products at the touch of their finger. That's the real impact we created with it.
Amazing. Arjun. So now the question comes in, if there is an entrepreneur starting a D2C brand, let's say he has an idea, can be a vegan product, can be something in the, let's say, merchandising space. So how should he or she go about creating that brand? Should he even focus on creating a brand, or should he just focus on doing performance marketing and getting the unit economics sorted in the initial days? How would you advise someone?
So I think I told you, Shubham, I teach a course on building D2C brand. I think the first thing you got to do is figure out your product. What is your product? What's the problem it solves? What's the niche? Why do customers care? And why would someone buy this, right? Once you do that, you then sort of do your customer testing, give it to customers, get them to try it, see what they think of your product. Then you go and manufacture the product and do a pilot launch. But before you do that pilot launch, right, it's critical to see what does your brand mean? What does your brand stand for, right? So I think it's very important to do a brand exercise. And I can share a document with you guys later on what this brand exercise looks like. But basically vision, mission, purpose, target audience, logo, visual communication, verbal communication, all of this, and having that brand guideline document ready before you hit the ground running is critical, right? Because you have to be very succinct and clear what your brand is. The digital ecosystem, e-commerce and D2C brands is not like it was when I started, where you had to convince the customer to buy online. The customer is convinced to buy online. Now you have to convince him or her that among the 10 or 12 or 15 or 20 brands that there are available, you're the right guy to partner with. You're the right person to work. So that's the real difference, which is why a brand is really important. And I tell all D2C entrepreneurs and budding D2C entrepreneurs, you have to earmark a particular amount, 50,000, 1 lakh, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 5,000, whatever that is, on a monthly basis as discipline for branding everything. That is not your performance marketing. That is what goes into building your brand. Because that's your top of funnel. You have to do it. It's non-negotiable.
Got it. And how should someone approach? Let's say he got started with a brand, he got a vision, got a problem that he is solving. Let's take an example of a vegan brand solving for their supplements. Let's say B12 supplements we are solving for. Then we got the product launched on Instagram, got some performance marketing. Maybe the unit economics are not sorted really right now, but there are huge huge number of competition in the market. So how should someone separate from the competition and build a niche around that people should know about that product? Like in case of Dr. Vaidya's, when Ayurvedic comes to mind, Dr. Vaidya's come to mind in an online brand. So how were you able to achieve that, and how would you advise on someone in that particular stage?
I think this is my favorite topic. It's called moat. What is a moat, right? A moat in the olden times was a water body around a castle or a fort to protect that castle or fort, right? Now, can the moat protect the castle and fort forever? No, but it will definitely take a little bit longer for the invaders to come and invade that castle or fort, right? So I think moat is critical. Now, what is your moat? Your moat could be product, it could be packaging, it could be innovation, it could be branding. It could be price, like Jio entered the market cheapest. Innovation could be Mamaearth, right? They were the first toxin-free, chemical-free brand. Form factor could be Dr. Vaidya's Chakash, the world's first Chyawanprash in toffee form. It could be access online, right? So Dr. Vaidya's first brand to go online with Ayurveda and build that access online. You need to think about what your moat is, what your differentiation is, and why customers will come to you over everything. This moat won't exist forever, but it'll allow your business to establish its niche and get the customers initially.
Got it. That's amazing. And for the last question from my end, then we'll open up the floor for questions from the folks because they are pretty interested to interact with you as well. So how are you doing right now after an exit? How does it feel like? And which are the companies or the sectors that you are looking forward to invest in future days? If you can give a glimpse of that.
So I think first exit is a very emotional, bittersweet, difficult decision. But I think we raised strategic capital from RP Sanjeev Goenka Group in June 2019. They wanted to eventually buy this business, but they thought it'll take longer. The business, fortunately for us and them, grew exponentially in 2020. COVID plus brand leadership plus market share plus unique product launches, whatever, we did something right. And so eventually they made an offer to buy the business in December 2020. I come from private equity. I know how difficult it is to get an exit in this country. I'm not one who wants to buy at the bottom and sell at the top. I believed and respected the value they were giving us. And so I thought it was a fair time to exit. So we exited officially on March 8th, handed over the business in the early part of this year. What am I doing now? I'm an active angel. I've invested in 15 companies now. I largely invest in digital brands, consumer internet, and enablers to e-commerce. I've done some deals outside, but largely consumer-facing businesses because that's what I understand. I also mentor 7 D2C brands now, some founders who take my time. I work as a venture partner with GetVantage. That's how Shubham and I got connected. We have this initiative called Founders for Founders, where any founder across the country can book a 30-minute slot with me. So that was fun. And I also teach a course on D2C. That's what's been keeping my wife and I busy for the last 3 months. Going forward, actually, both of us are now getting on the next leg of our journey. I'm most likely becoming a professional investor, so setting up a venture capital fund to invest in consumer brand. And my wife will be a little bit more flex. She's joining the Global Bees team, the First Cry Thrasio team as an advisor. And so she's going to spend some time on that. And then obviously she wants to be actively involved in the angel portfolio as well. She's going to be leading the angel investment. Yeah, but it's been great. Look, I have had a little bit of flexibility. I've had a little bit of, I wouldn't say time off, but time to do stuff that I really enjoy until I start the next leg of my journey.
Awesome, Arjun. Onwards and upwards for your journey ahead. All the best from our side.